Zeke wants to know if this is a display of pride on his part. Smiling, he says it's not. He simply only knew that much. That's all he had memorized. In the end, he just ended up taking an even worse beating. Even so, that wasn't bad at all. Zeke is not very well liked among his peers because he's annoying. But no one can complain about his actions, because his skills are truly powerful. Extending his hand over Jarang's face, he prepares to do something. The aura begins to gently increase. In response to his niece's concern, he tells her not to worry. The boy will be fine. He just healed his wounds. He just wanted to confirm with her if the boy's name is Yu Jarang. Zeke is one of the top 10 rankers in the whole country, and he didn't expect something like this that day. Who would have thought he'd meet the son of that guy here? Zeke is the greatest healer in Korea. The sun finally starts to set. Someone tells Zeke that if he was going to be late, he could have at least sent a message. He could have at least had a coffee and relax, and how they'll be late for the briefing again. And every time they're late, people always think it's his fault. But Zeke says something happened, and it took longer than expected. The young man says he heard that Zeke was dueling with a boy, but given the delay, he thinks it must have been several. As soon as he looks at him closely, he's surprised. There's a small mark on his cheek. Looking more closely, his surprise grows, piquing Zeke's curiosity. He wants to confirm if that thing on his cheek is really a cut. Impatient, Zeke asks what else it could be, if not a cut. But he can't believe it. So this boy must be ready to go to school, and he must be 16. But Zeke says he's 17. It seems he'll try to enter the warrior school during the winter admission. Indeed, it exists. But no one has passed in the last 3 years. For sure, he has a chance. Cutting Zeke's cheek is not something easy. This new generation is really coming in more and more terrifying. Zeke says comparing people with elves is disproportionate, and he's sure the boy is no different from the young man. Kang says there must be a difference. He's ranked 19th of Black Class Explorer, leader of the NYX attack squad. He believes he has the upper hand over the boy. Both in talent and experience, he's only 21 and graduated from school a year and a half ago. Zeke just sighs after hearing that. He said he hadn't seen that car yet, and the young man said he barely spends his money. So he allows himself certain privileges. Jerian remains lying on a stretcher. After some time, he finally gets up. Looking at his hands, he notices that all his wounds have been healed, and besides that, he doesn't feel any pain. The girl says he's finally awake. She wants to know what he was thinking, and if he really thought he could win. But he says that wasn't quite it. He had just been really angry, and it was the other guy who had started it. But even she doesn't understand why her uncle would want to fight the boy, and Jerian wants to know if they are really related. And indeed they are, he's her uncle on her mother's side. Faced with his silence, she becomes curious. But he just says everything's fine. He said they seem to have a good relationship, which is noticeable by the way he treats her. But she didn't understand where he got that conclusion from. But Jerian said it's just as he said. You can feel this concern that a stranger might be taking advantage of his niece, and you can't fault him for that. But she says her uncle isn't really that kind of person, and that, in fact, he's very strict. The staff member enters the room as well, noticing that he's already awake. She asks if he feels any pain, but he responds that his body is fine. Indeed, she sure would have healed even old injuries. It might not seem like it, but the director is the greatest healer in the country, and that leaves him perplexed. Even being that strong combat isn't his primary role. Jerian smiles as he realizes this. In any case, it's a relief that he's okay, and she already has the evaluation results. Handing him the tablet, she showed the information. It's really very good, says Serum. He's in stamina and agility. B and strength and endurance and C and intelligence. Looking at the data, he wants to know it's really that good. She shouts in frustration for him to shut up, and the staff member wonders if he's really ready to join the school. To be a high-level explorer, you need to have at least some B ratings in your skills. However, it's necessary to have balanced stats. There's no point in being too agile if you lack stamina. Even if you're very strong, all that strength is useless without agility. She says that even normal people have C-rank abilities, but things change when you have more than one. Having C or higher in strength, stamina, and agility is something one person in 10,000 possesses. If they're B, it's 1.5 million, and that alone places him among the best explorers. He not only has it B in strength, but A and the other two. Besides being balanced, his stats are way above average. Even though it's his first year, he's going to be on the same level as that monster. Looking at him, she asked if he wants to hear something interesting. The person he had just fought doesn't have a single stat higher than A. Stats are just the total potential. They don't translate to what a person has in practical ability. Even with good stats, the real difference comes from training, and that's not the only variable. There's also what can't be measured, like fighting spirit and field experience. It may seem a bit cruel at first, but you see many explorers who have filled those gaps through sheer determination. Sarah blushed because she knew the woman was talking about her. After hearing all that, he thanked her for the story he had heard. In fact, he's not disappointed or anything like that. He just doesn't quite understand it yet. But there's someone he knows, and compared to that person, he's far behind. A staff member was surprised that he knew someone like that. That's not common at all. It must surely be a famous person, and he kind of is more or less. Sarah says they're done for the day, and they could meet again next week. But since they were there, the staff members suggested they visit the medicine production section. However, the girl is hesitant, unsure if her uncle would be upset with this decision. But the staff members said the director had already authorized it. Sarah doesn't believe it and wants to know if he said that before leaving. His words were that as soon as the boy woke up, he should be taken to where the equipment is made, and to tell everyone that the boy is his guest. Even to the point of making a weapon that adapts to him, no matter the cost, Sarah could hardly believe it. Quality equipment is the dream of any adventurer, even if he's extremely talented. If the equipment is of low quality, it won't keep up with its user's power. As the skills are perfected, the explorer needs better equipment that can keep up with them. Faced with that, Jaren can't understand the situation. He doesn't know if he needs equipment now, since he's only going to school, but Sarah says it's not what he thinks. The boy assumes that at school, they'll receive equipment for the students. Hearing this, they don't even know what to say. Sarah knows it's all her fault. If it were a normal institution, his assumption would be correct. Each school has its own rules about the equipment that can be used. Jaren imagined that this is the case with the warrior school, since they have the most resources. Jung says it's not about resources, but that the school has different ideals. There's a difference between talent and skill, and obtaining good equipment as a skill in itself. That's why the school requires students to bring their own equipment. To him, this only benefits those who have resources, and he asks that if being rich is a skill. He's not wrong about that, but it's possible for students to have good equipment, even if they don't have any money. Entering the school implies that the student has the potential to be a great explorer, with the potential to become a star. That alone can be used as an advantage because there are people who want to invest in that. Students quickly attract the interest of various companies that see business opportunities in them. The offers are incredible, since all of them are very large companies. She herself received a scholarship from the Jinsong Group and a guaranteed job until she won her retire. Without showing surprise upon hearing this, she finishes by saying that these are the doors that open when you enter this school. What won't be lacking are opportunities for him to prove himself among his peers. However, the first step for him is to pass the test. A transfer exam is more difficult than the admission one, and he needs to prepare. Obtaining equipment is one of the things that need to be done. That's why the director wanted to help him with that. Since she has already passed the details along, he just needs to go to the refinery and the basement. She wished him luck and hope he could get admitted to the school. Things could have ended badly. Sarah wants to know how, and he says she didn't imagine her uncle would help. The more he hears about the test, the more it seems like people will do anything to pass. That's why she wants to help him.